Stephen A. today. You can join the conversation here on ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Commercial insurance through Progressive's Protect Your Business and Your Dream. From over 30 coverage options, third at progressivecommercial.com. Joining us now here on the Stephen A. Smith Show is ESPN NFL analyst and longtime NFL player, Damien Woody. Woody, I know from a former player standpoint that you guys probably feel the most juice as a former player on the opening night, opening weekend of the NFL season. Do you still have that when we get to the first real games?
Man, I am pumped right now. I'm pumped because the whole offseason we've been dealing with speculations of what teams are going to look like.
Right.
We've been dealing with everything, holdouts, all those type of things. But now we finally get to the games that matter. So, like all other fans, I'm excited to see what's going to happen tonight.
All right, so there's so many intriguing storylines around the NFL. If you're an NFL fan or just a fan of a team, there's so many things you could point to that would make you want to watch a certain game, a certain team, what have you. Let me start at the top, okay? Because Vegas has the Chiefs as the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. Patriots are up there. You got the Saints, you got the Rams, the Eagles, everybody in the mix. But if you watched that AFC title game last year, most people felt that the Chiefs were better than the Patriots and was one penalty that cost the game. Who do you think should be considered the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year?
Well, listen, I always say, when you always got to give the defending champs the benefit of the doubt, and I think the Patriots have gotten better.
Really?
Since last year. I think defensively they're going to be in an elite defense this year. Offensively, they get Josh Gordon back, Demaryius Thomas to go along with Julian Edelman. They have the ground and pound running game. We saw that towards the end of the year. So I think this Patriots team is going to be better. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, is going to be better. Patrick Mahomes is going to be in his second full-time season. So imagine how great this guy's going to be. They changed defensive coordinators. They add the Honey Badger, Frank Clark to that defense. So, listen, I think those two teams, to me, are the teams to beat in the AFC.
Well, that's what I believe. I mean, I say this: it's a two-team race in the AFC, and you know what it may come down to, Woody, actually, is who has home field advantage. It didn't help the Chiefs last year, although, again, most people thought they should have won that game. But if you give the Patriots home field advantage in Foxborough, that's going to be tough, and maybe a new and improved Chiefs team. I don't see any other team in the AFC as presently constructed being able to contend with either the Chiefs or the Patriots.
Well, listen, that's the old saying of, well, that's why they play the game.
Right.
That's why we got to see what's going to happen, because you never know what happened on the football field. But I'll tell you what, those two teams, they're really talented. They're coached up really well. And listen, I think it's the Patriots and the Chiefs, and then everyone else is slightly below that, the other contending teams.
NFL analyst Damien Woody joined us here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Michael Eaves in for Stephen A. today on a Thursday as we get set for the opening night of the 100th NFL season. Packers-Bears coming up later tonight. I do want to ask you one more thing about the Chiefs, though, because they've got a game against the Jags in their opening weekend, and that stands out to you for a particular reason, Woody. Why is that?
Well, listen, it's obviously opening week, and it's down in Jacksonville. Let me tell you something. Playing in that Florida heat where the humidity is high, that's a tough chore. And then you got to go up. You're Patrick Mahomes, and you got that high-flying offense, but you're going up against one of the best defenses in the National Football League in Jacksonville. So that, to me, is a very, very intriguing game in Week 1.
In the quarterback situation, what will be revealed in that game about the Jacksonville quarterback situation?
Well, listen, you have what I call a competent quarterback situation with Nick Foles,
right.
A guy who you feel like he'll take care of the football. Because that's really been the biggest issue with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We know that Blake Bortles was tied with the most turnovers in his team and being in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have Nick Foles coming into the mix. This guy, he has championship pedigree, and he knows how to take care of the football.
So much attention on the Browns for obvious reasons. One, you've got two players in particular that are lightning rods for attention and oftentimes controversy. That, of course, is Odell Beckham Jr., and that is Baker Mayfield. And now they join forces. And from an overall football standpoint, you could see why they would work. But Baker's been talking so much noise, as he has in his entire career, even go back to Oklahoma, so he is still on brand in that regard. How do you think the expectations and the attention will impact the Browns season?
Well, I think that, to me, that's the most intriguing thing about the Cleveland Browns, because for so long, the Cleveland Browns were the hunters. They were searching for relevance. But now you look at what's transpired this offseason. The trade of they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. Okay, they elevated Freddie Kitchens to the head coach. They got all the pieces in place. Jarvis Landry, David Njoku at tight end, Nick Chubb at running back, Kareem Hunt when he comes back off suspension, and then the defense, all the pieces on defense. So now you're in a position, if you're the Cleveland Browns, where you're the hunted, because guess what? That's all we've been talking about this offseason is the expectation of the Cleveland Browns and how good this team could possibly be. I want to see handle the expectations.
Right, because it's one thing to talk whatever, right? And I'm all about guys being confident in who they are, and I understand the whole us versus the world mentality, and sometimes that leads you to say some sideways kind of stuff, which Baker Mayfield has obviously done over the last several months, maybe a year or so. But again, until you show somebody who you really are, it's all conjecture. You can say, we're going to be this, we're going to do this. Every team says that. All 32 teams at the beginning of the season, Damien, will tell you what they're about to do. But until you do it, you're still the team that we thought you were, the one that you showed us before. So how much different can it be in Cleveland just because you have OBJ there?
Well, yeah, exactly. You're making my point. Listen, a lot of people have kind of anointed the Cleveland Browns already without them actually going out there and making it happen on the field. Listen, they made a huge jump last year. I think they went 7-8-1. Mm-hmm. They were right on the doorsteps of the playoffs, but it's a different animal when you're a team that's hunted. Okay, we've heard players this offseason talking about there's noise that's been said about the Cleveland Browns. So when these players and these teams go up against the Browns, it's going to be a totally different scenario. And that's why they're going to be on primetime a lot this year. Yeah,
I think most people would say the Browns probably should beat the Titans in this game. But even Mayfield saying that the Browns receivers should be licking their chops for a one-on-one coverage. They see it from the Titans defense. So that right there, if you play in the secondary in Nashville, already said you're even more hyped for this game because of what the guy on the other side is talking. Let me take you to a couple other places, because you mentioned OBJ. He's one of several new faces in new places, right? Or excuse me, old faces in new places. You've got OBJ in Cleveland. You got Nick Foles in Jacksonville, we talked about. Le'Veon Bell with the Jets. Antonio Brown in Oakland. Big news about him we're going to ask you about in a moment. But which one of these new faces in a different place are you really looking forward to seeing?
For me, it's Le'Veon Bell.
Okay.
I think people have forgotten how good this guy is. Remember, this is a guy that right now has the most scrimmage yards per game in NFL history. That's more than the great Jim Brown. So he's been on. We didn't see him all of 2018. So this guy is fresh. He's got a new contract. He's feeling good, and I think he's just ready to tear it up and remind everybody that, look, I'm the best all-around back in the National Football League.
What do you think of the fact that between his last game with the Steelers, which was a playoff game following the 2017 season, and his first game with the Jets, more than 604 days will have passed, I believe, if my math is correct, and he tells Adam Gase he wants to overload him with the ball. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Do you think that's a good idea for the Jets in game one?
Absolutely. This guy is fresh. He didn't have any tread on the tire from 2018. So this is a guy, he's going to be searching up contact. This is a big back that can go out there and run routes like a wide receiver. So if you're Adam Gase, this is the premier piece to your offense, and you want to find all different types of ways to utilize him to help you win football games.
Let's go to the NFC real quickly before we get to what your thoughts are on Antonio Brown. Big news today. I'll ask you about that here in a second. But should the Rams be considered the favorite in the NFC, considering they went to the Super Bowl last season? You said that the Patriots should be the favorite in the AFC because they're defending champs, but it's the Saints who have the better odds, according to Vegas, to go back. And also, Dame, if you go back to the NFC title game, people believe that, the Saints were better than the Rams. So who do you think should be the favorite in the NFC?
Well, listen, I know a lot of people are trending towards the New Orleans Saints. It seems like the past couple of years they've had bad luck, whether it was the miracle catch against the Minnesota Vikings that knocked them out, or last year the pass interference penalty against the Los Angeles Rams. But I'm actually picking the Dallas Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC.
Whoa, come on now. Now, this is the Stephen A. Smith show, right? I'm filling in for Stephen A. today, but this is still his show.
Hey, listen, I know the first thing he would say to me is, that's just blasphemous that I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys. But listen, I feel like when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, their team, I feel like Dak Prescott last year when Amari Cooper came over the trade, we saw the numbers jump up big time for Dak Prescott. We know what Zeke Elliott means to that team. I think no back means more to his team than Zeke Elliott. The way he controls the clock, he keeps the defense fresh. The Dallas Cowboys defense is a very good, elite defense, in my opinion. So everything is there for the Dallas Cowboys, along with the other teams we talk about in the NFC, whether you talk about the Los Angeles Rams, the New Orleans Saints. The Dallas Cowboys, to me, is right there, and I'm picking them to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Damian Woody coming on the Stephen A. Smith show when Stephen A's not here to proclaim the Cowboys to come out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl.
I told him on First Take today. So, of course, he almost had a heart attack in the chair, but I'm sticking with my pick.
Hey, that's why you are Damian Woody. You don't put stuff out there unless you believe it. All right, so
that's right.
So now we got to get to the big story of the day, and I put this off purposely with you, Damian, because I wanted to get all that other stuff away in terms of I wanted your perspective on all things NFL. But then I know we're going to have to come back to Antonio Brown. If you're just joining the program, if you haven't been on social media, Adam Schefter reporting that Antonio Brown and general manager Mike Mayock got into it Wednesday, clearly over the social media post by Antonio Brown with the fine letter, and the Raiders are now planning to suspend their star wide receiver prior to their Week 1 matchup. That's according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. So, Damian Woody, when you hear the fact that the Raiders are planning to suspend Antonio Brown before Week 1, what is the thing that comes to your mind first? Woody, you still there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. Listen.
Go ahead.
The question was about Antonio Brown and this whole suspension. Listen, this doesn't it shouldn't surprise anyone. We're talking about the same Antonio Brown who went AWOL last year when the Steelers needed him most in Week 17 and to go to the playoffs. Okay, this is the thing that really trips me out. A lot of these teams. They try to go acquire a mercurial player, thinking that once we get him in our building, that he'll change. This is who Antonio Brown is. Listen, the talent is undeniable. He's maybe the best wide receiver of our generation. But what comes with that is a lot of the baggage, and we saw the baggage with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now it's transpiring with the Oakland Raiders. You traded for him, you gave him picks. And then on top of that, you gave him a new contract. So I always say when you give somebody money, they're going to reveal more of who they are with the money. So if you're the Oakland Raiders, you're in a particular situation now because you've given this guy all this money. What are you going to do? There's not much you really can do besides suspend him, and that's, according to Adam Schefter, that's what they're going to do.
All right, so let me ask you this, and I agree with you. We see this across all sports, actually. You have a player who had issues in a certain organization, but another team believes that they can change him or be the place where he can be a different person. All right, that is very common across professional sports in particular and also in college athletics. So let me ask you this. If you were John Gruden and you were Mike Mayock and you were considering bringing Antonio Brown to Oakland, what type of conversations would you have had prior to making sure that he is a good fit for your organization? It's not just talking to him and maybe his agent. What are you doing to find out if this dude indeed can be a positive influence in your organization?
Well, listen, for me, what I would do, it's not necessarily about having a conversation with the guy. Is what have your actions shown me? Okay, you're Mike Mayock, you're John Gruden. You're trying to instill a certain culture with the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders have been down for a long time now. And one of the first things that Mike Mayock talked about when he became general manager is how he wanted to instill a certain culture, a winning culture, a culture that's accountable to one another. But then you go out there and you acquire Antonio Brown. And granted, listen, Antonio Brown is one of the hardest working guys on the field. He has a legendary work ethic on the field. But all the other baggage that comes with Antonio Brown, that goes into the face of what you've been preaching about as far as the type of culture you're trying to instill in Oakland. So this whole thing is just mind-boggling to me.
Damian Woody joining us here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPNU. Michael Lee's filling in for Stephen A. today. Clearly there was a clash of personalities, probably even ego. And to your earlier point, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that John Gruden and Mike Mayock's ego told them that they could handle Antonio Brown. Whose ego do you think has been the biggest clash for Antonio Brown in Oakland? Is it Gruden or is it Mayock?
Well, I think it's Mayock. Listen, John Gruden has raved for years about Antonio Brown, the player, Antonio Brown with the legendary work ethic. But when you talk to Mike Mayock, he talks a lot about the Patriot way, the way that the Patriots run their organization, the accountability that they have within their organization. So that would be, in my opinion, that would be bucking the trend of what type, bringing in Antonio Brown, that would be bucking the trend of what he's trying to instill there in Oakland. So that's why we're seeing all of this transpire between, Mike Mayock and Antonio Brown, because they just come from two different worlds.
So how did it even get to this point? And that's why I asked you that earlier question. If you're Mike Mayock and you know who you are, and you're John Gruden and you know who you are, I just feel like there had to be some more due diligence done and maybe more man-on-man conversations with Antonio Brown to say, look, dog, this is what we've heard about you in Pittsburgh. If that is you, fine. We are not going to accept that nonsense here in Oakland. Can you tell me face-to-face that you are cool with what we have trying to establish here going forward? If you can't, that's fine. But tell me face-to-face that you're that dude. Now, granted, Antonio Brown could have said all the right things. I get it. But you will know. You have a pretty good feeling, Damian, when someone is lying to your face. If someone's just trying to sell you on something to get a certain place. And I just don't feel as if, I'm speculating here, but my gut tells me that Mayock and Gruden maybe didn't have the conversation with AB. They thought by coming there it would be different because those two dudes are there.
Well, listen, I'll go back to what did the actions tell you?
Right. That's what I'm with you. So if the actions say we need to have a conversation, that's my point. Everything that AB has done in his career says, yo, you and I have to talk because this is what I believe. This is what I've been told. I need the truth from you right now.
Well, Michael, think about this. I don't even know if I would even have to have a conversation. If I'm trying to instill a culture, okay, an accountable culture, a culture where everyone falls in line, do I really want a guy as talented as Antonio Brown is? Do I really want a guy who basically quit on his team in Week 17 when his team needed him the most?
It depends on who you are. That's the problem, though, David. It depends on which team you are. Because, look, from a business standpoint, the Raiders needed Antonio Brown, right? They're about to leave Oakland. They're going to Vegas. This is bigger than this 2019 season with this signing. It's about going forward, sure, but it's also having a star marquee player to market that team around when you go to Las Vegas. Let's be real.
Listen, absolutely. All these type of decisions have to be weighted, and now we see what the Oakland Raiders are going through, and this is part of the repercussions of making this type of decision. This is what you have to deal with.
Okay, so let's say, as Adam Schefter is reporting, that this suspension goes through, and he is sat down for Game 1. What impact do you think it will have on Antonio Brown?
I mean, I mean, what else is the Oakland Raiders going to do? He's still going to get his money. Okay, he might, he might miss a game check this week, but I mean, he's still got $30 million guaranteed.
I know, right?
$30 million guaranteed. So I don't know how much is going to affect Antonio Brown that much.
Right. But again, no one has ever told Antonio Brown no. And maybe this is the first time that it's happened to him in such a public setting, and we'll see if it has any impact whatsoever. But clearly, Mike Mayock, maybe John Gruden on his side as well, I would assume they are not having this Antonio Brown nonsense to start their 2019 season. Damian Wood, appreciate the time, man. We'll see you on NFL Live, First Take, SportsCenter, all them shows pretty soon, dog. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so again, Antonio Brown. What's your take? 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Did the Raiders actually make a mistake by bringing him in? Because everyone is saying today that who didn't see this coming? Well, maybe the Raiders didn't see it coming, because how did they get to this point if they did? That's all coming up next here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Michael Leaves in for Stephen A. on this Thursday. Hey, if you're sending your kid off to college this fall, remember there's one thing college students need more than books or pencils or instant noodles, and that's money. And you can send it with Zelle, a quick and easy way to send and receive money right from your banking app. It's easy to use, and the money you send with Zelle goes directly into your college student's bank account, typically within minutes if they're already enrolled. That way they can pick out that perfect care package for themselves. Look for Zelle in your banking app or get more info at ZellePay.com. Zelle, this is how money moves. Terms and conditions apply. Ezekiel Elliott knew his worth, if the Dallas Cowboys knew Zeke's worth, why did it take all this time? Why did they waste everyone's time getting to this point? What was it really for? Now, what NFL Twitter's been saying today is that it's for the attention. Jerry Jones likes the attention. Everyone's talking about the Dallas Cowboys. For weeks on end, days on days, we were talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Let me tell you a little something about sports media, folks. We were going to talk about the Cowboys regardless because they're the Cowboys. Same way we talk about the Patriots. Same way we talk about all the great teams and all the great leagues. We talk about the star players and the star franchises. We were going to talk about Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott and that Dallas Cowboys squad regardless of this situation with Ezekiel Elliott. So if you really think they got a certain amount of money worth of advertisement and attention out of Zeke holding out and waiting to the last week, you're fooling yourselves. That's not how it works. We talk about stars. You talk about stars. That's who you talk about on social media. That's who you call into sports talk radio shows and talk about. That's what you tune into for television. We talk about stars. The Cowboys are one of the star franchises in all of sports. We were going to talk about them going into the season. We were going to say how they were the favorite to win the NFC East, and if things fall right, maybe they can go to the Super Bowl. We were going to be having those exact same conversations. But as it related to when or whether Ezekiel Elliott was going to sign a contract, Cowboys just wasted everybody's time. They wasted their fans' time. They wasted local media's time. They wasted their teammates' time because the teammates had to answer questions about Ezekiel Elliott on the regular. They just wasted everybody's time because the inevitable happened. The best player in the league has the richest contract at his position. That's what happened. Now, as I promised, we're going to talk more about the contract specifically with Josina coming up later because, you know, it's 6-7 years, could be $100+ million, da-da-da. The only numbers that really matter, as we know, in current NFL contract talk is the guaranteed money. $50 million for Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley with $45.